Okay. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at how A, B, and C affect the graph, like what happens when you change A and when you change B and when you change C. And I think we kind of teased about this a little bit in the last chapter, but we didn't really do too much with it. But we're going to do that. And then we're going to go from standard form to vertex form. And that's going to be completing the square again. So if you still haven't figured out how to complete the square, you need to get on that. You need to come to tutoring, or you need to get on Khan Academy, or you need to do something. You have to complete the square. When we started learning it, I warned you, this is not going to be the last that you see of this. You're going to see it more and more. In fact, I even pointed out that it was on the boards in the back of the room because Algebra 3 was using it at the time. So that's not something that you can forget. And then we're going to have a quadratic function in vertex form. This is vertex form. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to get from here to here using completing the square. So that's the point. And this is vertex form. We're going to use vertex form. And then we're going to do like a connection between the graph and like an analytical connection to those two. And then after we take the quiz, we're going to have systems of quadratic and linear functions, systems of equations. So we're going to talk about how to solve, where does this line meet this parabola? Where does this line, or does it meet it? How many times does it meet it? That sort of thing. Did you? Good. We're going to graph square root functions, and we're going to talk about how a square root function is the inverse of a quadratic function. And then we have a test. It's kind of a big test too. I mean, it doesn't have any more questions, but each question seems to have a lot more stuff in it. So anyway, all right, so let's look at graphs of quadratic functions. All right. Consider the graphs of the quadratic functions pictured below. Determine the domain and range of each function. Using a dashed line, draw the vertical line that cuts each of the parabolas in half. This line is called the axis of symmetry. Then write the equation of this vertical line in the space provided. So that's important. The vertical line that cuts each of the parabolas in half is the axis of symmetry. So I'll do number 1 with you, and then I'm going to let you do the others on your own. What's the domain of number 1? This is a parabola that goes forever. Negative infinity to infinity. What's the range? Negative infinity to 4. Does it touch 4?
Yes.
Okay. What's the axis of symmetry? So we have to draw a dashed line right here. That's what cuts this in half. Draw the dashed line. Didn't it say draw the dashed line? Using a dashed line. Yes, done. What?
I have to draw beside that line.
Okay. Sounds good. What's the equation of this line? What's the equation of that line right there?
X equals -1.
X equals -1. Perfect. Okay, you do these 5. what's the domain on number 2? What's the range?
-4 to infinity.
Does it touch -4?
Yes.
All right, I've got an axis of symmetry right here. What's my axis of symmetry? X equals 2. That's important. The x equals part is very important. What's the domain for number 3? And the range
-4 to infinity.
and the axis of symmetry?
X equals -1.
Right. Domain on number 4? I feel like I see a trend here. What's the range on number 4?
Infinity to 3.
And your axis of symmetry?
X equals -2.
Okay. How about your domain on number 5?
-infinity to infinity.
And your range?
-4 to infinity.
And your axis of symmetry?
X equals 1.
Okay. Last one, number 6. What's your domain? And the range? And your axis of symmetry? Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to start you out on this next page, but then I'm going to let you finish. You kind of have to look at both at the same time. All right, so on, ooh, I don't know what's happened the past 2 days, but this just keeps falling in my face, and I just keep flipping it up, and it'll fall right back down.
Cut it
Anyway,
off.
I'm going
Cut it
to.
off.
Let's see. Do it. What's the value of A?
-1/2.
-1/2. All right. Is the graph concave up or concave down? It's down. All right. Determine the left and right in behavior. Okay. So as x is approaching infinity, what is f of x doing? So it's approaching negative infinity. As x is approaching negative infinity, what is f of x doing? It's approaching negative infinity. Okay. What is the value of -b over 2a? All right, so a -b, so that would be a -1 over 2 times a, which is a -1/2. So what does that work out to be? How about a -1? X equals -1. This says find the value of x equals. So x equals -1. Find the value of the function using x equals. So I need f of -1. So that's going to be a -1/2 times -1 squared minus -1 plus 7 over 2. Oh, that's fun. Okay, so that is -1/2, +1/2. That's 4. Does everybody see how I got this number? And everyone see how I got this number? Yes? No? How did I get this number? I put that in for x, and then I did math. And it did involve fractions. So I know how you feel about fractions. you're going to have to do this again. You're going to have to do this. And number 5 also involves fractions. You may want to use your calculator because I know how you feel about fractions. All right, what are the coordinates of the vertex?
-1,
-1, 4. Is that a maximum or a minimum?
maximum.
What's the value of C in the equation?
7/2.
All right. I'll go ahead and I'll say 3.5 because I know how y'all like decimals over fractions. What is the y-intercept of this graph?
3.5.
Okay. Now you do 2 through 6. What we just did for number 1 together, you do for 2 through 6. I'm going to try to pause this. We'll see if I can just pause and not actually. Is everyone here? Except for Ashton. She's the only one missing. Sorry. Just trying to disinfect the light.
I'd be okay with it.
What?
I'd be okay with that. I wouldn't have to take that test. if I got taken.
What test?
You have until 3:15 with them, make up your test.
Why wouldn't you have to take it just because the lights went out?
Well, he's saying like if we went home because the power went out.
No, she'd make you take it.
We have sat in the dark an entire day. Uh-huh.
I'll get you there. But after that,
Said I get
yeah, right.
But that's because the locks on the door disengaged.
Once we sat in the dark and the kids couldn't read the board, so I wrote on the window. Not these windows, obviously. It was in the old building, but
The only reason we have to go home now if power goes out is because the locks disengaged.
surely there's a backup.
I'm sure there is in this one, but in the old one there wasn't. That's why we had to go home.
I don't know what hospital they go to. I remember.
Because they're giving the ACT right now. We're gonna be here. We're gonna be here for sure and certain until they get finished with the ACT. And then, because they're working on pumping all this water out. If they get the water pumped out by the time the ACT's over, then we're golden. We're good.
Oh, I about messed up this morning. I came from the highway, and so I went to turn. I was like, oh, all right, my car ain't gonna get through that.
I brought the big car today so I could make it through it.
I poor Monster. Like,
Mr.
it's
Whenever I
stuck.
pulled in over here, I thought Mr. Parrish. I didn't realize it was him. I thought somebody was like trying to get out and the car got swamped or something.
Oh
Then
yeah,
I noticed him in there just like
yeah.
Sitting there on his phone.
always waving people.
What is the maximum and minimum? Like, how do you know what?
Is it the highest point or is it the lowest point?
Oh,
Didn't he also park his Jeep like right in front of the water?
That's what I was just talking
No.
about.
I'm talking about
Literally
last time.
10 seconds
Yeah,
ago.
to try and stop people from turning down that way.
People still turn that way.
Yeah,
but-
and then they have to back out.
Well, I drove through that this morning, but I was also in the SUV, not in the Prius. I don't think the Prius would have made it.
The priest would have floated.
The Prius. That's what Eva calls it. The Prius.
That's accurate.
Dude, you're awesome. You gonna get my time for your ultimate?
oh my.
Here's what I'm saying. How's your mom or your phone? Like, how's your mom or your phone?
The negative exercise for that. Okay, so you know how it's a half of X, where else you just solve whatever answer you get from A to B to X.
No, that's exactly.
Okay.
Are y'all done?
No. With which ones? I'm done with the first 2, 3.
Okay.
Can't even do that.
Well, Gage, I'm be honest with you, I haven't gotten a -5 yet.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I didn't get a 6 either. I didn't get a 6 or a -5. Just okay.
That's the whole page,
Yeah,
so.
dude, it don't matter.
I've done the whole page. I didn't get a 6 or a 5.
What?
No.
Where you get a -5?
You got a -5.
You got a -6.
Hey, that's still.
I didn't get
wrong.
that
What
either.
is- You got a negative.
Yeah, you're worse off than me.
No,
Well,
I'm not.
depending
How do you
on
know
which way
who's
you
worse off if you don't know what the answer is?
Right.
That's pretty
find the
good.
value of a function using x equals negative b over 2a is the only thing.
I don't understand.
So did you get what negative b over 2a is?
I got negative
Which one are you doing?
I got a negative.
3? Did you put parentheses around your -1 when you put it in your calculator? You did.
Well, I didn't do it on the first one.
Well, that's the problem.
But I just worked it like in my head.
If you got -6, you didn't get the right answer.
Hey, Gage, you were close.
This is number 3.
Yes, you are, 'cause I got the right answer.
That's not times, it's plus.
plus.
You put times, but it should be plus.
That's why.
It's the same way I did it. You calculate it, doesn't do it.
Oh,
It's negative. 'Cause I worked it in my head, I got that, and I put it in calculator.
what are you supposed to be doing? Tag thing in there? Keep doing that. Oh, yeah, please.
I don't sit here.
Right, that's a good time.
Stop.
You know, you're trying to play footsie, weirdo. Where's your rain?
You're just insane.
Yes.
No room, I don't just sing.
Yes, you do.
Or.
Dang, we actually have to do something first. Wait, what if she's the basic?
She's not.
The other French class is not so cheap. Yeah.
The other French class is in it.
Maybe she has another meeting. We never get it. Well, yeah,
Well, yeah, we do.
we do it, we do
Had
it.
the last few days.
Yes,
She had a meeting yesterday. Played Montcalm, you know. They played Jenga and I heard.
No, they get sacked that real high. They throw cold.
One time Gage just get around through it. No.
Yeah, you better not play Jenga today.
Yeah, because these retards are boxing.
No, I flipped their old man collar board over.
Yeah, and I wasn't even doing
I
it.
got cut by that stinking glass thing.
Glass?
Like you
What,
got
no
that
glass?
timber glass thing?
That was
Josh was smack Gage in the scrape.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was trying to hit you with it and it hit Joshua.
Trying to hit me with it.
Yeah, you threw a rock.
Oh.
at me.
Missed it.
Connor, I think I'd rather stay home.
Now there's just some baseball right there.
All right, number 2, what's A?
2.
Does it open up or down? It opens up. In behavior.
As x approaches infinity, f of x approaches infinity. As f of x approaches negative infinity,
No,
f of x approaches infinity.
okay, hold up. It's g of x, but okay.
Oh, yeah.
They
My bad.
both approach infinity. X equals a negative b over 2a, so it's gonna be a negative 8 over 2 times 2, which is 2. And then you're looking for g of 2, which is 2 times 2 squared minus 8 times 2 plus 4. And what'd you get there?
Negative.
-4. All right. What are the coordinates of the vertex?
2, -4.
Is that a maximum or a minimum?
Minimum.
What's C?
4.
And what's your y-intercept?
0.
All right, number 3. What's A?
1.
Does it open up or down?
Up.
And your end behavior as x is approaching. Oops. I didn't put infinity or negative infinity. As x is approaching infinity, what's happening to h of x?
Infinity. Approaching.
And as x is approaching negative infinity, what's happening to h of x?
Approaching.
Yes. X equals a negative b over 2 times a. What does x equal?
1. Oh,
-1? Isn't it -1?
I got negative.
It's -1.
Oh, I'm stupid.
all right.
So h of -1.
For here, we're
And I don't know what I did.
I know it.
You said negative 5 by 2 is negative 2. Well, that's what I did. Not bad.
All right, and this is -4.
I'm a little confused about what we're doing, like right there.
Yeah, me too.
Right here,
Yeah.
You just plug it in
you
for that.
put it in for x and work the problem out. So that's
Oh,
1.
so I just plug it into the x on the actual equation.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought we were doing some other word equation.
Oh, you're talking about, okay. On the,
See that.
trying
What's
to-
your vertex?
-1,
Maximum or minimum?
minimum.
What's C?
-3.
What's your y-intercept?
0.
Number 4, what's A?
-1.
Does it open up or down?
Down.
As x is approaching infinity, what's happening to, is this f of x again? Yeah. F of x is approaching negative infinity. As x is approaching negative infinity, what's happening to f of x? Negative infinity.
You can, it's the same thing for every down and every up. That's why I just copied it.
It is, you are correct. A -4 over 2 times
Yes, okay.
-1 is what?
Negative
They're not
2.
all 10. JC.
2.
I said they're not all 10. He's called us different.
Oh my gosh.
You never seen Grown Ups. I was making a joke, but it's whatever, right?
All right, what's f of -2?
I don't know. F of -2 on 4.
Mm-hmm.
I got 11.
It's 3.
Oh, 3. What? Whatever.
What?
It's 3.
I don't understand.
What?
I suck so much at math.
You're going to have -4 plus 8 minus 1, which is 3. Which vertex?
I did.
-2.
-2, 3.
Max or min?
Max.
What does C equal?
-1.
What's your y-intercept?
0.
All right, number 5. What's A?
Half.
Does it open up or down? In behavior, as x approaches infinity, what's happening to g of x?
Approaching infinity.
As x approaches negative infinity, what's happening to g of x?
Approaching infinity.
Okay. X equals a negative b, oh, it should be there, over 2 times a. So what does x equal?
One.
Yes.
So then we find g of 1, which would be 1/2 times 1 squared minus 1 minus 7/2. And what is that?
-4.
-4. What's your vertex?
1, -4.
That is a minimum. What does c equal?
-6.5.
And what's your y-intercept?
0.
Last one. What's A?
-2.
Does it open up or down?
Down.
In behavior, as x is approaching infinity, what is happening to h of x?
Approaching -8.
And as x approaches negative infinity, what's happening to h of x?
Approaches negative.
Okay. X equals negative b over 2a. We're looking at a -8 over 2 times -2. So what does x equal? -2. And then you're trying to find h of -2. So you're looking at -2 times -2 squared minus 8 times -2 minus 3. So what is h of -2?
Is it 5?
It's 5. What's my vertex? -2, 5. Is that a max or a min? That's a max.
Gauge.
The highest point. Nothing goes higher than that point. That's a maximum. What does c equal?
-3.
And what's your y-intercept?
0, -1.
Perfect. All right. We will stop there for today.